students, so as you can see over here, so thing is the statement is basically used for the purpose of whenever you are trying to execute any kind of database query, okay, that is specially SQL query, right? Now this is somewhat like the easy kind of approach, okay. So basically if you try to see in the statement interface, the statement interface provides few method for executing this kind of job, right? So as previously we have also used prepared statement, which is commonly used, that's why we have completed that particular first, okay. Then we are moving to this part, okay. So basically this particular statement kind of approach you can adopt whenever you have a requirement, something like you are trying to execute a SQL query which does not require any kind of in parameter, okay, something like select star from student where the ID equals to, so that value is not there. So better you can use this kind of statement, because the point is if you try to use the statement, okay, there is a chance of SQL injection, okay, if there is a in parameter. So better choice is your prepared statement, right? So if there is no in parameter, you can use this particular thing, right? Now in the statement part, what you need to do is there is a method called execute query, so which you have already seen previously. The thing is execute query requires a argument, okay. If you try to remember the prepared statement, we do not provide the SQL query to prepared statement at execute query statement, okay. While you are calling execute query, you do not need to provide the SQL query. Basically it is been provided whenever the prepared statement created, right? When it's created, that time we are giving the SQL query. But in case of statement, at the time of execution, at the time of requesting for execution, so requesting for execution happen in execute query method, okay. So there you have to provide the SQL query. That is the basic difference, okay. So similarly if it is SQL execute query, then it should be a select statement, and if it is a SQL update, okay, execute update, then it should be insert or update or delete or like data manipulation language, okay, that you can use, okay. Even DDL, data definition language, you can also pass, right? And there is also a method called execute, which is used to execute the query that may returns multiple results, okay. So that is also possible in case of execute. And there is also a method called execute batch. We will also see how execute batch and when you should use this particular thing, right? Okay. Now back to our code part. If you try to implement this one, so this is the previous project which we have already added the libraries into our project, okay, and we have written some code, right? So let us go for one thing, create a UI, okay. The main we are considering, though it is a command line kind of project, okay, just for running and testing whether it's working or not. So we are going, the user interface will be your main function, okay, where you have to take the input, you have to display the output, those kind of code you are going to implement in the main function. So we are going to write a main write a class which will contain the main function. Let us create that particular thing. So class, so what is my class name? I can say statement demo, okay. So though it is an example of statement, and you can select the main function and execute, okay. So you got this particular thing. So now we are going to write the rest of the code, basically which will be going to take the input and all, Okay, so let us simply go for, I have already created one table. Okay, so the table is student, and basically there is two records are there. Okay, we can use this particular table for performing the operation. Okay, and the structure says the ID is a integer kind which is primary key as well as it is auto increment. Second is the name which is varchar to 45, the score, that means a mark, okay, that is your integer kind, and grade, that is your varchar again. Okay, so your grade, you can also modify this particular thing. Basically grade is a single character, so varchar 1 or 2 also you can give. Okay, it's a better choice, right? So this is my table where I am going to operate, like do the select statement or insert statement, those kind of operation we are going to do. Okay, so obviously for this particular thing I require one model. Okay, so there is already one model is there. Okay, student model. So let us create a new model for this one. Okay, or you can check whether it's matching. Name, age, no, it's not matching, so we can create another model. Okay, so the class is student, and the package is basically this one. I am just giving dot statement dot model. Okay, so statement example. So I am just creating one more like you can say package. Okay, or right, and there is a student called class. Okay, and this will be a model class, right? So what are the fields are there? So the fields are this one. Okay, so we are going to create these many number of property for the student class. Okay, because while retrieving all these data are coming as result set, so you have to capture that within the object. So you have to create. So we can go for like private integer, and that is ID, private string name, private integer score, private string grade. Okay, so obviously it's required the getter setter method, so that you can do by generating. So you can go for source and you can go for generate, and here you can select all those fields because we are going to create the property for getter setter for all properties. Okay, now for me I don't require any constructor, so I am not generating any. Yes, I can go for just for verification purpose. Maybe I can generate a toString method just to check like whether I get those value or not. Okay, so this is my model is done. So obviously in the same way I can go for creating one DAO class. Okay, and that is again I am writing student DAO, right? Student DAO, and the package I am going to use is statement dot DAO. Okay, so statement works like a module over here, right? Got the point? Now over here what I am going to write is basically the getting the connection, then fetching the data or inserting the data. Okay, I can go for insert or those kind of thing. Rest update and delete you can do at your level, right? So same thing. First thing is getting the connection. Okay, even in this particular project, in other class, that is get connection is also available. Okay, I can use that particular thing also. Okay, but I'm just creating a new one. Okay, so public static, then connection, get connection. Okay, got the point, right? Now what next? The next is I can go for something like class dot for name, and that is nothing but your driver. Okay, so I have already added the jar file, that's why this particular thing I am getting. Okay, right? And second is I am returning the connection. So driver manager dot get connection, and what is the thing I am going to pass is JDBC colon MySQL colon / localhost colon 3306 / now you can check what is the schema. The schema is demo. So demo, then user ID is, for me it is root, and the password is also root. Okay, now obviously it is going to generate the error because it is throwing, one is throwing the SQL exception and another throwing class not found exception. Okay, so I am just throwing this one, so whoever going to use this particular method is going to handle. Got the point? Now let us retrieve, because we have two datas are there, we can retrieve and we can test that particular thing. Now while you are retrieving, I am retrieving all. So depending upon whether you are retrieving single or retrieving all, so your return types matter. So I am returning all. So though I am returning all, obviously my return type should be a collection. Okay, so that means it should be public list. Okay, and list is which kind? Basically a student kind. Now student of which one? The statement one, because I have two different, so I have to be careful that while selecting the model, which class I am selecting. Okay, so then fetch, suppose all student. Okay, does it require any argument? No, because we are retrieving all values. Okay, now if this is the thing, obviously I need a list which needs to be written of obviously student type. Okay, so that is list equals to null initially, and I am returning that particular thing. So return list. Okay, now next part is I am going to write the rest of the business logic. Okay, right. Now what is the first thing? That is you need to declare few global variable. Okay, because we have to close the connection, we have to close the statement and all this stuff. So global variable is a best choice. So connection con equals to null Here I am going to use the statement, not the prepared statement. Okay. Statement, if you see, that is also available in java.sql. So you will are getting three different things, but you have to select java.sql. Okay. If you are selecting something else, then there will be compilation error kind of thing. Okay, later in the code, right? So statement st equals to again null and result set rs equals to null. Okay. Now what next? The next is your getting the connection. So con equals to the class name, that is student dot get connection, right? Then another is your statement. So statement equals to con dot create statement. You can mark over here, we are not passing any SQL query because we are going to pass while it is calling for the execution, right? Then you can go for like result set equals to st dot execute query. Here you need to pass the statement. So that is your select star from students. Okay, you can mark the table name is student. Okay, so you have to use that particular thing, right? Okay, what next? It's a loop, means you say, it's basically a result set. So obviously multiple records are there, so you have to provide all those things. Okay, so traverse through all element has to be, you have to provide a looping statement, right? So so before doing that particular thing, we can initialize the list because the list is been null. So list equals to new, you can mention something like array list. Okay, and then you can go for while rs dot next. Okay, right, rs dot next. So what next? Again you have to retrieve a record and build the object. So for building the object, first you need to create the student object. Stud equals to new student. Okay, and next is you can go for like stud dot set id, where you have to retrieve the value from result set. So rs dot get integer, and what is the column name? The column name is id. Okay, here you can provide 0 1 2 3 4 also, but my suggestion, use the column name. Okay, so if any kind of like join query and all those things are there where the names are complex or not clear, that time you can use 1 2 3 4 like this. Okay, so next is set name. Okay, similarly rs dot get string, and you can provide the name. Okay, similarly another thing is stud dot set score. Okay, and rs dot get integer, and basically again you have to use the column name as score. Then stud dot set grade. Okay, and rs dot get string. So that is your, okay, now your object is ready, and next is you are going to bind that particular thing into the collection dot add, so that is your student. Okay, now with this process it will retrieve all your information and things are okay. Next is here you can go for e dot print start trace. If any kind of error you are getting, then you have a finally block you can add, so that you can close the connection or statement. So statement dot close, okay, and connection dot close, right? And obviously these two throws you the SQL exception, so you can handle over here by putting try catch again. Okay, now the similar way you can write also fetch by ID, so there the return type will be student instead of list. Got the point? Now you can also add one more column, one more thing, that is your something like adding a student. So public integer add student. So here it's required the parameter. What is the parameter required? What is the parameter required? As argument, what it required? It required one student object. So the reference of student stud you can mention. What is the next one? The next is it is returning an integer. So I can say int status is equals to 0. So by default it will be 0, and I am returning status. Okay. So basically when it's returning, I am going to use this variable like statement dot execute update. So I am going to say like status equals to, if it is 1 then it is successful, if it is 0 it is unsuccessful. Okay, and if it is error, by default it is 0 means it is unsuccessful. Okay, so that way the things will be. So again the try catch kind of thing. Okay, and same concept, connection con equals to null, statement st equals to null, and it does not require any result set because we are going to insert. Okay, so con dot get connection, okay, sorry, con equals to student dot get connection, then statement equals to con dot create statement. Okay, and next is your execution. Okay, so what will be my SQL query? So my SQL query will be something like, I can generate the SQL query and I can reuse that particular thing. Okay, so this will be insert into table name, column names and values, right? So obviously in JDBC we do not need the schema name, so we can remove the schema name. Okay, so the single quote kind of thing we can remove. Okay, the ID is not required because it's auto incremented. Okay, so the name is a varchar, so a single quote is required, right? So we require this particular thing, but score is integer, so it does not require any single quote. And lastly it requires also this particular thing. Okay, this is the basic idea, right? Now I can use this particular stuff for creating my SQL query, right? Getting back to the code, now I can go for something like status equals to st dot execute update, where I am just passing this particular thing, right? Now over here the critical thing is you have to bring the value into this particular place. Now it's a string, okay? Now for that what you need to do is you can like use the concatenation up kind of thing, okay? So you have to close this particular stuff, then you can use this particular plus operator, that is means this will be, the previous part will be one string, then a variable which having some value, then again rest other code, okay? So like this you have to concatenate, okay? Because while it is a string, the value has to be, it should be reflect something like, if I am entering RAM, then it should be written something like insert into student name, score, grade, value, RAM, okay? Got the point? If it is running, then it is running. So depending on that particular thing it will be. So the string concatenation is required. So here how you are getting the name? So obviously through the model we got the value. So get name, okay? Now same thing over here. Here it is a what? Integer, okay? That means it does not require any single quote, but the value has to be there. So student dot get score, okay? Same thing over here, again you need to add your grade, okay? So stud dot get grade, right? So this will be the string. Got the point? Now if it is bit confused, then what you can do is you can create this particular string outside of, means you can create a string like string SQL equals to this whole particular thing, then you can pass as an argument SQL, okay? So there will be, the thing will be more readable kind of thing, right? Okay, but the ultimate thing is same, right? Now you are getting the this particular stuff, then your exception dot print stack trace, then next is you have to bring the finally block, where that is should be again try catch block, yes, okay? And there you have to say st dot close, and similarly connection dot close, okay? So done. Now go back to the main function where you are going to enter the value. So this part I am going to do for the insertion, then a retrieval, there we will see that whether the value is inserted or not, okay? So this part will be insert of data, right? And then we will go for retrieve of data, okay? So first thing is you need to enter some data, so you need a scanner object, okay? Scanner SE equals to new scanner, and as argument system dot out, sorry, in, okay? And lastly we can close the scanner, okay? What next? You need to enter all those value, name and all this thing, right? So there again you need a student object. So student, which is belongs to statement model, that's true, right? So student student equals to new student, right, and student dot set name, because we do not need to worry about the id is going to generated automatically, right. So there we can go for a string. So string is basically you can go for sc dot next line, okay. Same thing, stud dot set score, which requires a integer value. So there I can use integer dot parse int and sc dot next line, okay. Then stud dot set grade, which is again sc dot next line, okay. So before that the user has to know that what is going to provide and all. So sys out, okay, system.out.println. So that is your something like enter student name, score and grade, okay, right. What next? The next is you are going to enter the value. So for that you need student DAO, okay, which is available in student package, okay, student module, right. So DAO equals to new student DAO, right. Then DAO dot add student, where you are passing the student object, okay. Now this is somewhat, it's returning an integer value, right. So int status equals to this thing, and we can say if status double equals to 1, okay. So we can say data inserted, right, status, else data not inserted, okay, clear. So similarly for retrieval, again already you have already created the object, so you do not need to create another object, you need to only call that particular thing. So basically if you try to call, then it is a list of what? List of student, which belongs to statement module, okay. So list equals to which one? Your DAO dot fetch all student, correct. What next? You have to retrieve, you have to check, okay. Now if list equals to double equals to null, then no record found, correct, yes or no. Else, okay, you can take a for each and you can say sys out and student. I have already implemented the toString, overridden the toString, so that we can get the value displayed, right. So this is it. Now let us test our application, okay. So it is asking enter the name. So suppose Raja, it scored suppose 70, which is a grade, Okay, now you can see, right? So this is somewhat like the what the point? Okay. अरे से स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डर कोड पळेला ना पॉज करते मार्क करते कट जाइए